So, you want to plan a bike trail trip? Good, because in this video I'm going to show you how I plan and execute a bike trail trip from A to Z, beginning way back before I even know where I'm going. This is Joyful Trails, a YouTube channel where we explore bike trails and hopefully find a little joy in the journey. I've had people ask, how do you decide which trails to ride? Well, let's talk about that. First, let me explain that I'm a recreational cyclist who travels to greenways, river walks, and rail trails, sometimes staying in a hotel and spending 2 or 3 days in the area. I'm not a bike packer. That's a whole other thing. I do hope to do some bike-centered camping trips someday, sleep in a tent at a campground. But for now, it's what I call BTT, Bike Trail Trips. I guess you could call it BTW, Bike Trail Weekends, but BTW already stands for by the way, so that would probably get confusing. So, let's get into it. First of all, I keep a list of trails that I want to visit in my head. I also make a list on my computer and print them out. I even keep a shorter list on this home message board thingy that I keep in my dining room, which is actually a bike garage these days, which is proof that no female lives here.
Amen.
You see, my friends, women have a civilizing effect on men. When there's no woman around, a man might do something crazy like, sell the dining room table and chairs on Facebook Marketplace and then turn the dining room into a parking garage for bicycles. I mean, not that I would do that, but some guys might. But I digress. Now, about these lists of trails, where do I find all these trails? And are there enough trails out there to support a YouTube channel? Friends, you would not believe how many greenways, rail trails, and river walks have been constructed in the past decade or two, with more on the way all the time. I ain't gonna run out. But my go-to place to find out about bike trails is an app and/or website called All Trails. You can put the All Trails app on your phone, or you can visit them on Al Gore's internet. Either way. Now, there are some similarly useful apps and interweb hubs like TrailLink that you may prefer, but I like All Trails. I have the paid version, but the free version works just fine for most folks. I don't have time today, but eventually I may create a separate video where I give you a detailed look at all the cool stuff that All Trails can do, because it is pretty amazing. And no, this video is not sponsored by All Trails, although it could be. All Trails, have your people call my people. And by my people, I mean basically me. But yes, All Trails is the foremost way that I educate myself regarding what's out there. The second way that I learn about trails to visit would be just watching other people's videos on YouTube. Someday I need to do a special video on the other creators I enjoy watching. I ain't jealous. I don't have time for that right now, but I will throw out a few names in alphabetical order. Adventure Time with Bane, Adventures on E-Bikes, Bent on Bike Trails, Billy's Bikes and Brews, Fly Scout Rider, Follow Thomas, Kentucky Cycling, More Outdoor, Richard Moore, Mountains and More, PFAM 5, Southern E-Biking, Paul Sushecki, Troy and Andrea's Little Adventures, and Ryan Van Duzer, just to name a few. There are others. It's a crowded space here on YouTube. Watching videos on the old YT, as we call it in the business, is a great way to discover new trails. And the third way to discover new bike trails would be to visit websites on the interwebs. Just do a search, a Google search, or DuckDuckGo, or Bing, or whatever turns you on. We used to call it surfing the web. There is one site especially that I find very useful, and that is railstotrails.org. It's the website of the Rails to Trails Conservancy, and has great maps, write-ups, videos, etc. on the best rail trails in each state. I love that site, but it's only about rail trails. Other types of trails need not apply, okay? So there you go, 3 good ways to develop a list of places you want to ride. Number 1, an app like All Trails or Trail Link. Number 2, YouTube videos from cycling creators. And number 3, websites like railstotrails.org. So I have this list. Let's say I've got a weekend coming up, and it's been a while since I have ridden a trail. When it's been a little too long since I've been on a bike trail, I just get this itch. You know what I mean? Can you relate? I don't know, I just start itching and scratching, and then I get sweaty and clammy, and then I start breaking out. I break out in hives, and then I realize that I'm running a fever, and then I start throwing up, and wait, I think I'm confusing this with that time that I got a hold of some bad shrimp and grits that had been sitting out too long at my brother-in-law's wedding reception. Anyway, let's just say I realize that I've got some free time coming up and I want to go ride a trail or two. Now, sometimes I'll just go on a day trip, but other times, such as this mythical trip that we're going to talk about here, I might want to go and spend 1 or 2 nights away, make it a weekend trip. So I'm based in Greenville, South Carolina. So at this point, I want to narrow my list down to maybe 3 options. Why 3? Because of weather. You see, weather is a lot like a woman's mind. It can change at any time and often without notice. But seriously, the weather does become a big factor for me. Now, for you, maybe not so much. Maybe you enjoy cold and wind and rain and snow. Maybe you just like a challenge. Maybe you're a masochist and you just enjoy being miserable. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Do your thing, bro. I'll most likely be making a video when I ride, so I want good weather. Sunshine is preferable, with temperatures in the 50s or above. So I will have my eye on 3 trails usually. Let's just say hypothetically that I'm looking at Chattanooga, Tennessee, Jekyll Island, Georgia, and Roanoke, Virginia. Those are kind of spread out and far enough away from each other that one of them is bound to have nice weather. And as the weekend gets closer, you can usually sort of get a feel for which one is going to have the best weather, the one that you're leaning toward. So this is a great time to do a little advanced scouting on Al Gore's internet. Let's say that you discover that there are tornadoes in the forecast in Chattanooga, and oh yeah, Jekyll Island has flooded and is underwater. Well, that means we're definitely going to Roanoke. So I will begin watching videos on the city of Roanoke and the trail that's there. There's this whole genre of YouTube videos now by realtors. Real estate agents have discovered the interwebs, and they apparently feel that online video is the next great way that they're going to sell houses. So they put out all of these videos on exploring Roanoke, what to do in Roanoke, Roanoke's top neighborhoods, etc. Sometimes travel vloggers will use reverse psychology, like Roanoke is a dump or Roanoke sucks, because they understand that there's a segment of people out there that will be more likely to click on a negative thumbnail and title. But I digress. So I'll watch videos on the town and the trail. I'll search for Roanoke River Greenway, and all of these videos will pop up. And sometimes I'll just do some random internet searches as well. Things like the town website or Wikipedia. You know, to get some advanced reconnaissance as part of my pre-trip scouting mission. Now it's time to pick a hotel and call ahead. I didn't used to call ahead. I didn't want to get boxed in. I wanted to be spontaneous, footloose, and fancy-free. I didn't want to limit my options, but I learned the hard way that it's best to call ahead. You see, what had happened was I kind of got kicked out of a hotel because they wouldn't allow me to keep my bike in the room. Yeah, I even made a video about it. I will include a card up above and a link in the description box below to the video that we made about that time I got kicked out of the Super 8. But yeah, they would not allow me to keep my bike in the room. Now, these bikes, I don't know about you, my bike is too nice, too special, too near and dear to my heart, and too expensive to leave outside overnight, just trusting that somebody won't ride off on her. Right? But yeah, the safe thing to do is to call and speak to a human and ask them if they allow you to take your bike into the hotel room with you. So now it's the night before my bike trip to Roanoke. I will throw some things in a bag, but don't go overboard on this. You don't need to take your whole closet and bathroom with you for an overnight trip. If you get there and you need some things, chances are there's a Walmart nearby. Trust me on this one. I will also get my video equipment together and charge my 1,437 batteries. You can probably skip this part, but for me, it is vitally important to make sure I have all of my gear charged up and ready to go, and make sure I have mini SD cards with plenty of free space on them. If you don't know what a mini SD card is, don't worry about it, you're good. You probably don't need to know. A mini SD card is like a mini skirt, small and deserving of attention. I apologize to any female subscribers watching this video. Please don't unsubscribe. Ladies, you need to understand that sometimes, well, all the time, I have the sense of humor of a 14-year-old boy, okay? My therapist is working with me on this, but hey, the first step to getting help is admitting that you have a problem. So the big day arrives. Most often I will get up early and leave at the butt crack of dawn, which is a slang phrase that means very early, usually before daylight. I'm sorry, I'm just imagining people from other countries watching this video and saying, What is this? This butt crack of dawn? What is butt crack of dawn? What does this mean? I do not understand. I like to get on the road before there's a lot of traffic, and I'm usually just anxious to get there and to get on the trail. If it's a trail I have not visited before, I will use the navigational info from my trusty All Trails app to find the trailhead. But before I get there, I will stop somewhere and purchase a moderately healthy snack to enjoy on the trail. You know, like a granola type thing or a protein bar. Something without chocolate, because the chocolate will probably melt. And some water, because you never know if the trail will have water fountains. And if it does have water fountains, they'll probably be dry. You might remember my theory on this. I think that a lot of these cities and counties turned the water fountains off during COVID and have just never turned them back on again. But, I mean, Joe Biden pardoned Dr. Fauci, so what are we going to do? Another thing you may want to do is find a restroom there in town before you get on the trail and go ahead and empty your tanks, because you never know. Sometimes you don't know if you'll find restrooms or not on the trail. That can be a problem. Now, if you're a guy, yeah, you can pee in the bushes, okay? We all know this. But let me just say that it's a good idea to go ahead and try to do what I'm going to call number 2 before you get on the trail that day. Because if you don't, and you're on a trail with no restrooms, and nature calls, I mean like really calls, it can be bad. Don't ask me how I know. So, I almost always ride the trail first, and then walk around and videotape the town later. So I ride the trail, I enjoy exploring and seeing all the sights, and at the same time, I'm videotaping the trail, deciding where to place a camera so that I can do what I call a pass-by shot. Then after the shot, I have to go and retrieve the camera. And I will often ride over a cool bridge 3 or 4, maybe 5 times because I'm videotaping it from different angles. And I'm certainly not setting any speed records because I'm often riding with a 9.5-foot tall selfie stick in one hand with an Insta360 X4 camera attached to it. But unless you're making YouTube videos, this stuff that I'm talking about right now is stuff that you don't need to worry about. So after the trail ride is over, I will head into town. I usually look for the town center, the old downtown Main Street, the town square, as it were, because that's where the character is. That's the part of town that's going to present best on video. So I just walk around town, and get video shots of what's cool and interesting to me. The best way to do this part is on foot, because you see things when you're walking the sidewalks that you would never notice if you're just driving by in a car. Lastly, I will most often look for a place to get a snack or a meal. This part is almost never pre-planned. It's all about what I see and what I'm in the mood for. It could be something sweet, like ice cream or donuts, or a full-blown meal from a barbecue joint or a Mexican restaurant. Hey, and I'm no food snob. I've even been known to eat at Crystal, KFC, and Captain D's. Just depends on what sounds good to me, what's open, and what's nearby. And then I head home with my mini SD cards full of footage and enough memories to last a lifetime. After I get home, well, that's when the real work begins. That's when I write a script, record my on-camera parts, and edit the video. But even that part is just a whole lot of fun for me. So there really is no downside to this whole thing. At this time, I implore you to kindly click the like button on this video, the thumbs up if you will, and subscribe to the channel. Also, share this video with your Uncle Frank in Arkansas who enjoys riding bikes. And if you liked this video, here's 2 more that YouTube thinks you will like just as much. Why don't you watch those next? I'll meet you over there.